Hello everyone, Alexa Donne here, and today I thought we would do something a little different and a little fun and tier rank some thriller tropes. Yes, saw the tier ranking videos and I thought to myself, like, what could I really add to this? And I was like, thriller tropes though. And I didn't find one on Tier Maker, so I was like, I'm going to make my own. Some of you may be like, aha, because last week I asked for your favorite and least favorite thriller tropes on both Instagram stories and on my community tab. This is why. I had my own kind of starter list, and a lot of this are ones that like I certainly came up with and have strong feelings about, but it was really helpful to get a few from you, though I have to say, overwhelming majority of you like an unreliable narrator. That one came up more than anything else. Either way, this is going to be a lot of fun. So let's dive right in and rank some thriller tropes. As you can see here, so I created this, I've got the 27 down here, and then I did auto buy. So like for me, this is like, if I know a book has this trope, I'm gonna buy it. You might even already know some of these. Enjoy it, not mad. For me, that kind of means like, I enjoy this trope, it's just not one of my diehards, but I enjoy it in books often enough. Then there's trash or treasure, depends on execution. This one, it's a love or a hate, and if I'm putting it here, it means like if someone does it badly, burn the book, but if they do it well, it's an enjoy it, not mad for me. Then there's meh, firmly neutral. It's like, I just don't care. I could take or leave these. And more often than not, they're not going to push me to buy or specifically enjoy a book. And then finally, hard pass. If I see this in a book, it's more often gonna be I'm not gonna buy it or not gonna read it, or it would take like some other trope being in that book to overpower a hard pass trope for me. Okay, so of course, first here is POV detective. Technically this is a trash or treasure, depends on execution for me, theoretically, but I'm actually gonna put it under hard pass because I have so few hard passes that I feel like something's gotta go here, and 99.9% of the time I just do not gravitate toward detective fiction, especially in thrillers. But I have read a few that had other tropes that overpowered it, and that's what got me to read the book, and I enjoyed it in spite of having a POV detective. But it's only fair to put it in hard pass because it's one of the few tropes that I just really don't care for. Next is, oh, POV timeline trickery. Though it's funny about this and a few others, sometimes they're the kind of tropes that you don't necessarily know going in because they're spoilery. So, oh man, I'm gonna put it under auto buy because I love it. Although if it's done poorly, I hate it. But if I know that a book has timeline trickery, so like if I see another YouTuber hint at it, or if it's hinted in the cover copy, and often it is, I'm gonna buy it. So we're gonna leave it there. Amnesia / memory loss. This is enjoy it, not mad. I enjoy it a lot of the times when it does show up in a thriller book. It's not gonna make it an auto buy, but I'm not mad about it. Rear window / murder queue. This is what I called it because I was thinking of books like The Woman in Cabin 10 that are predicated around an unreliable narrator, which is a different trope, or it's a trope that works with this trope, where they swear they witnessed a murder or a crime and no one believes them. This one for me, ooh, it's either enjoy it, not mad, or trash or treasure, depends on execution. In large part because of another trope here. I'm gonna put it in depends on execution for reasons that we'll talk about when I get to the next one, which is mental illness twist. So for me personally, this is a trash or treasure trope. I either am okay with it or I hate it passionately, because so often I see mental illness as a twist used just very, very poorly and done very poorly. And I know for a ton of readers, it's a hard pass trope, which is why when I read books, thrillers that have mental illness as a plot device or twist in them, I like to give trigger warnings in my reviews because I know this is a hard pass for some people. But for me personally, it isn't a hard pass. It's definitely a depends on execution, and it's a real 50-50 split in terms of authors accomplishing it. And I will say, I just made it mental illness twist. I didn't break it down into other ones. People had mentioned DID specifically, dissociative identity disorder, schizophrenia, and there are other ones as well. And I would say, like, if I had made a separate one for that, DID would probably be a hard pass one for me. That almost never works for me. It's so overdone. Munchausen by proxy was the one that was mentioned by someone. So it can kind of be a case-by-case basis for me, but what's also tricky is when you go into a book ahead of time, you often don't know if mental health is a twist. So that can go horribly wrong. So that's a depends on execution one. And with Rear Window, same thing. Because if the twist is they had mental illness, I'm gonna side-eye it a little bit depending. Next is the sidekick love interest bad guy twist. And this is one where, again, you don't know before you buy that this is a twist, but it's an auto buy for me. You can call auto buy as like, yes, I love it, because I love it. I don't love it in every book, because then you get into this habit of you always suspect the love interest or the sidekick, and like the second the main character consummates a romantic relationship with the sidekick, you're like, oh, they're the killer. And I equally enjoy when I'm wrong and I'm right. So I like to read a variety of thrillers. So I like it when that trope's not overused, but it can be delightful. Next is the return to hometown trope, and I am going to put it under enjoy it, not mad. Typically, if that is the primary trope, I'm not gonna gravitate toward it, but if it's in conjunction with, there's another one here that I'm gonna put under auto buy, when it's combined with that one, as it often is, it's like it elevates the other trope I love. So for me, it's an enjoy it, not mad. I like kind of what that brings up, because, you know, they run into their former love interest or someone that they had a fight with, they have to make amends, and I like the way that that will complicate a suspense or a thriller plot. Okay, pervy adult and teen victim. Okay, so I was tempted to put this in enjoy it, not mad, because it is a very common thriller trope, and I'm not mad about it if it's done well, so I'm actually gonna put it in trash or treasure, because sometimes it is done very poorly. Because the key to this is not a good thing. It should never be a good thing to have an adult figure of authority, it's usually a figure of authority, prey on a young person, especially on a teenager. And it's a trope that will come up in YA often, or in the types of adult thrillers where there's like secrets from the past. And where I'm not mad about it is I like how it can add conflict when part of the point is social commentary on the predatory adult. So this is going in depends on execution, because I have seen cases where it's not critically examined and I'm over here like, no, if you're giving me teacher perving on a student trope, you better shut that down. Like, that said, I know some people hate it, but so for me, it's an execution one. And partly because, again, there's another one in here that's an auto buy for me, and that is a common trope in those books. So next is podcast / book within a book. This is kind of an amalgamation of different things. The podcast one is I'm thinking of those books that are like multimedia format or going for it, where throughout the book you're getting excerpts from or transcripts of a podcast. I've also seen this with like a documentary format. But also there is a hyper-specific trope of book within a book, but I didn't want to separate it out on its own because it is so niche. So I put them together, and it's kind of the adding that extra story, extra textural level to a suspense thriller book where the reader has this additional level of, I'm reading the podcast transcript, looking back on this case, or I'm reading the book based on this thing, and that's an auto buy for me. I am trash for that. It can be poorly done, but honestly, it's the kind of trope where even if an execution isn't perfect, it still elevates the read for me. So, ooh, dual timeline. Oh, I'm afraid so many of these are gonna be auto buy. Then I'm gonna put it in and enjoy it, not mad. Though the thing is, I will often auto buy because I do really love a good dual timeline. It's one of my favorite structural tropes and thrillers, but I definitely enjoy it and I'm not mad. Okay, isolation trope is an auto buy. We know this about me. And so that's the thing with auto buys. Like, not only will I be like, oh, I'm gonna buy this book, but it will elevate a book that might otherwise be pretty ordinary as long as they don't mess up this trope. And I've had that case with a couple of books, so I just freaking love it. And a note, some people did suggest like cabin in the woods trope, creepy woods trope, which is also one that I love, but I decided to just kind of do isolation trope because that comes in under it, which is why there's a cabin on the little icon. That kind of is rolled up into that for me. Okay, toxic friends is an enjoy it, not mad for me. I thought about auto buy because I really do love it, but it's usually some other trope that really guides my buy. The irony being that my thriller that's coming out is predicated on a toxic friends trope. But that's why I really love it, but it's not as auto buy as some of these other ones. But I love it when it's this group of people. Often there's secrets from the past, or there's just really complicated social dynamics, and it creates all of this extra conflict. I love a book that does that. All right, though, rich assholes, auto buy. Auto buy. Though in fairness, it can't just be by itself. It's usually coupled with some other ones that I like, including the toxic friends trope. And I could also call this lifestyles of the rich and fabulous, but it's so often coupled with this trope because it's what creates the conflict. I love thrillers and suspense books that are set in kind of glitzy, glamorous worlds where it's like, she marries into the family and then things happen on a yacht, or what's going on in this rich person's house. Like, I'm just there for that, so that's just I think it's the escapism of reading about just fabulously wealthy people who have dark secrets, yeah. Okay, the next one is going undercover. This is one of those exceptions to the POV detective trope. I read one that was a detective, but they were going undercover, and suddenly I was there for it. It's not quite an auto buy level for me, but it is an enjoy it, not mad. And as I said, like, that can be a way to get me to read a detective novel. I think the thing for me is that there has to be an elevation to the conceit of a POV detective book, partly because of genre conventions. There's stuff that comes with detective fiction that just isn't as much my jam as, say, domestic suspense or an ordinary citizen solving a crime. I tend to like those a little bit more, but throwing a detective into an unfamiliar high-stakes situation that can be a way to get me in. Okay, don't trust your husband. This is an enjoy it, not mad. Not an auto buy just because I am picky about domestic fiction, but I love a good book. I wrote don't trust your husband, but this is any case where you immediately suspect the person's romantic partner and they're acting shady, and the suspense of the book is partly predicated on your partner is keeping secrets from you, and it is most often in the thriller genre. That's the husband, that's the fiance, the boyfriend, and you derive conflict and stakes off of that shady stuff. And as thriller readers, we expect as we're reading, you know, half the time it's gonna be true and half the time it's a fake out, and either way, it's a trope that we enjoy. Okay, next is secrets from the past. Is this an auto buy for me? Oh, I have so many auto buys, so we're gonna put it in enjoy it, not mad. God, I'm not neutral on anything so far. I think there's one coming up, but I'm a little worried that I like all the tropes a little too much. But Secrets from the Past, I like this because it often goes into other tropes that I like. As I mentioned, it kind of returning to hometown, small town secrets, which is still coming up. It can also be used in dual timeline narratives, and it's just one that I enjoy, especially when the author does a really good job making the secret juicy. Oh, which reminds me, authors can mess this up. Is this a depending on execution? one doesn't come to mind where I hated the execution a ton. So we are gonna keep it here, but it can fall flat on its face. Okay. Meddling journalist. Okay, it's not quite an auto-buy for me, but I like it a lot. It's one of my favorite layperson investigates a mystery. It's like a sidestep from the detective, but it feels a lot more palatable because a journalist, it's just a different role. And I did go to journalism school, and that's probably why I like journalist protagonists. I also feel like a journalist, a meddling journalist, can just create a lot of delicious conflict. I enjoy it both as a POV character, also as a side character. I like it when you have a story going on, a thriller, and that character shows up. They're either helpful or hurtful. I love a good meddling journalist. Okay, next is Shady Nanny, which I added on because I saw on a couple different booktube channels that there have been a lot of nanny thrillers lately. I definitely read one this year. How do I feel about Shady Nanny? It can be really good. I don't dislike it, but I am actually gonna put it under firmly neutral because I do feel like my feelings are neutral. It's not gonna sell a book to me. It's not necessarily gonna elevate a book for me. I'm not mad about it, but I think it's fair to say I'm neutral. The next one, we're gonna do what we did for POV Detective. I'm gonna put it in hard pass, Fatal Attraction. This is kind of shorthand for books where a majority of the twists, stakes, and conflicts are derived from cheating, from a woman being psycho or mad because of cheating or because of a man. I'm not a fan of when the majority of your twist is predicated on women be crazy. It's almost always be women, let's be completely honest. Every once in a while it's a man, and I still don't like it. There was a thriller I'm not gonna spoil that did that with a male character, still didn't like it. So like when it's kind of like they be crazy cause love and stalkers, that's a hard pass for me. Though, like with POV Detective, sometimes it does slip into a book with other tropes, and I'm not completely mad, but if I know the book is predicated on that, I'm just not interested. Oh, okay, so this is the fan favorite, unreliable narrator, and I am also trash for that. If I know that something has an unreliable narrator, it's an auto-buy, although with one caveat that I'm gonna pull out from here, which is the boozy narrator is trash or treasure. And it's a really common trope that has risen in popularity, especially since The Girl on the Train, which is an unreliable narrator trope. And it can work, but I think it's a little overdone. And you have to like really sign up for a whole ass book where the main character is a raging alcoholic. And I didn't even put unlikable protagonist on this list. I probably should have, but for me, that's the thing with the alcoholic narrator. It can feel like a very cheap tactic, and also it's difficult sitting with that character for an entire book, and just some authors handle it well and some don't. So that's a trash or treasure one that kind of goes into unreliable narrator. So I will say, if I see that a book has an unreliable narrator and I think it's because they're an alcoholic, that's not necessarily an auto-buy for me. I'm gonna tread a lot more carefully with that one. So I think this whole time I could have broken my own rules and done these out of order. I'm bad at this. Well, to that end, let's skip, since I've already mentioned it. Small Town Secrets is an auto-buy for me. And this is the one where the returning to hometown, if it's coupled with Small Town Secrets, I am far more there for it than in any other case. There's something about cute little towns or villages or like ecosystems, because boarding schools is coming up, where there's secrets from the past and a person is coming into this new place or returning to a place and has to dig into this insular community. That's what gets me about Small Town Secrets. I'm trash for it. I love it in adult. I love it in YA. I'm writing one. And there are all sorts of tropes that go with it, some of which are on this list, which I really, really like. So, you know, boarding school's an auto-buy. Well, it's an auto-buy for me like 99% of the time. I do have to still like the pitch, but it's gonna get me to pick up a book I'm unsure about more than anything else, especially when it's coupled with some of the other tropes that I really like from the Enjoy It Not Mad or the auto buy list. I mean, I wrote one, I like reading them. It's kind of the insular community thing. If it's a boarding school attached to a small town, that's like extra. I'm all about boarding school. And boarding school is also one that goes very well with dual timeline. Another one that I like, Secrets from the Past. And sometimes your boarding schools are gothic shit. So gothic shit was my way of boiling down. I mean, anytime you have a thriller or suspense book that is gothic, so like you're getting that Rebecca Mrs. Danvers energy. There's an old mansion house. There's family secrets. Is something paranormal going on or not? Are there tarot cards? Is there some shady family stuff? I'm gonna wink at that because you might know what that means if you are a fan of gothics. I am here for all of it. So next is cults. This one's funny. I'm going to put it under, am I neutral on that? Am I trash or treasure? So many of these could straddle different categories. I'm gonna put it under neutral, even though I really like cult stuff. And the reason I'm putting it under neutral is I love cult stuff in nonfiction. I'm very interested in real life cults. I've read books on them. I enjoy a good drama series about cults. But there are some aspects of cults I'm less interested in and executions of it. And I'm less excited when I see it in thriller fiction for some reason. And yet the project is pretty high on my TBR. I'm gonna read it, but I'm not excited enough about it to say like, I enjoy this or it's an auto buy. And I haven't been mad enough to say that like if someone messes this up, it's trash. So I'm neutral. I read books from the neutral category. I just don't have, my feelings aren't as kind of enthusiastic or strong, so. And specifically like when it's like satanic culty stuff, I lose interest a lot faster. So there have been some books that have gone in that direction. I'm way less into it. But it doesn't ruin the book. Okay, next is gossip blog / blackmail. And I'm gonna put this in trash or treasure. This is an incredibly common plot device, particularly in YA. I found it's the Gossip Girl effect. I've seen it used a ton in YA, which is the kind of gossip blog thing. It does happen in adults sometimes. And then I did / blackmail because the heart of this trope is usually blackmail. So it's exerting external pressure on the main character or cast of characters. You'll see this in multi-POV. And specifically, it's used a ton in YA. And so this is, depends on execution for me. Not because I hate it when it's done poorly. It doesn't make me as mad as some of the other ones. But like when it isn't done well, it drops me into meh territory where it can deflate an otherwise okay book for me. And my question mark always is like, how well constructed is this plot conceit? Whether it's a gossip blog, a countdown clock, like I'm gonna release all your secrets at X time. It's that plot conceit that I'm thinking of with this one, and I'm just really in the middle on it. It depends. Leaning meh neutral. Like it can be good, but like make the secrets juicy, make it actually conceivable that the person behind it could do it. That's what I mean, like, yeah. And last, but certainly not least, you know that Secret Sociopath is an auto buy for me. This one's tough, of course, because it'll spoil the book if you tell someone ahead of time, unless that's part of the plot conceit. And if it's part of the plot conceit, I am gonna buy it. Often this is gonna come with the unreliable narrator trope or rich assholes trope, or just honestly, it has slipped so often into thriller fiction. Though, okay, I have this under auto buy because auto buy is meant to be like my all-time favorite thriller tropes. And that is, but it could double under trash or treasure because some people mess it up really, really badly. They just don't know what they're doing. Cause it's a cliche in thrillers for fairly clear reasons, but Sociopaths, so to speak, are not just crazy people. That's, no. Psychopaths aren't just people who fly off the handle at the end of the book and give villain monologues. Like, it is actually, like, it has to be properly treated. But that's the thing, when it is well done, or if I know that there's an aspect of a thriller that has a character like this, I'm there for it. And kind of narcissism kind of goes under this. I did read a book that had a narcissistic POV protagonist, and it was very well done, and I really enjoyed it because it added dimension to the story. It was a really interesting portrayal, and so I know it's not the best trope for me to enjoy as much as I enjoy it because it's a psychological bugaboo, but I really like this thriller trope. That's just how I feel. And so that's my tier ranking. It's really uneven. I have a lot of auto buy being favorites, and there's a ton I enjoy. I'm not mad about if they're in a book. I'm relatively easy to please. There's only a few things I really dislike. Though maybe I forgot some thriller tropes. So I'm curious to know down below in the comments what you think of my tier ranking. Are there thriller tropes that you would add to the list, and where would you put them? And feel free to take this tier ranking. I'm gonna put a link down below in the description and do your own thriller tier ranking. I also just noticed that you can see that I used my Author Mentor Match account to create this tier maker account because it really annoyed me that you had to link a Twitter account, so I used the Author Mentor Match account. So hi, it's me, editing Alexa. I really regretted not including more tropes that I didn't like, and immediately, of course, upon completing editing of the video, thought of one that I already mentioned and two more that really, it seems remiss of me not to include them. And so I added them to this, which did mean I had to recreate the whole thing because tier maker sucks. I'm real mad, but I'm not mad about these 3 additions. So I just felt incomplete without it. And it's like so exciting to have things that I really dislike. So now this tier maker is gonna have a little bit more dimension. So as already mentioned, military/government stuff, that is a hard pass for me. Though just like with POV detective, if there's some other trope that can override that, we'll call it a very soft maybe. But the one that I remembered that I actively hate, I've not seen it that often, but it's trans twist. This is when there's some kind of twist or plot aspect that uses someone being trans as a ooh. I'm just not a big fan. I think it's in poor taste. If you're familiar with my review of the book Dear Wife, you know I don't like this, and it deserves a place here. And then I was like, I did not include the guilty protagonist. That's the twist where you realize that the main character, usually a POV character or one of them if it's multi-POV, is the bad guy. And this one goes on trash or treasure because it's 100% about execution. Like, a part of me would want to put that on enjoy it, not mad, or even auto buy, because when it's done well, it is absolutely delicious. But when it is done poorly, it's a hot mess. And I have read both. I think we've all read the book that really messed that one up, and we've all read the book that just blew our minds because the execution was so deliciously and well done. So I'm glad that I added those things. It gives the whole thing a little more dimension. There's more to play with, and it's a little less uneven. So now I'm actually gonna let you go, send you back to a better lit version of me from earlier in the day to close out the video. So that's it. I had a lot of fun doing this, fun coming up with the tropes, moving them around, ranking them. The wheels are already turning. If you guys have more tropes, maybe we add to this. Let's have a little discussion down in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Maybe I'll find other things to tier rank. If you have suggestions, definitely let me know in the comments. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. I post new videos 2 to 3 times a week. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and happy writing.